Oh, hello there. Hi, I am Molly Gazay, and I am so excited to have you here at a Living Album podcast with Molly Gazay. This is episode 2, and I am really excited to share with you Rhianna Basore. Rhianna Basore is a comedy content writer. She is an empowerment coach for creatives, and she is also an amazing performer herself. We're going to talk about Money Monster, which is how we met. It's a really amazing tool for creatives to kind of tap into where their money fears are. And Rhianna is going to talk to us about a review of my song, Traveler's Lament, which is why I started this podcast. So if you like indie music and you want to support it, please go ahead and check out my Spotify. You can also check out the songs at the end of every month. I will be releasing the song of the month. And without further ado, let's get to the podcast.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm so happy to have you on here. I've been wanting to have you come on for quite a while. You were like one of the first people I thought of when I was like, oh, I'm gonna revamp a living album. I have to have Rhianna on here.
I'm so thrilled.
Me too, because we've been working together for almost a year. Has it been longer than a year?
I think it's about a year. I think we started working together last November. I can't believe that. It feels like less and more time.
It really does. I think that's like when you're having fun, right? Time flies.
Totally. It's exactly correct.
Yeah. Rhianna and I actually met through a mutual friend named Mara McCann, who I'm hoping to get on here at some point in the year. She's a badass. Through her Decision Makers group. And Rhianna, I think, Mara reached out to both of us and connected us? Is that how that happened?
Yes, absolutely. So I had been working with Mara wanting to develop a show around my Money Monsters. And I said, I really need like a rockin' collaborator because I really work best in pairs or in a writer's room or rehearsal room or whatever, hashtag theater nerd.
Yeah.
I just wasn't finding the right fit. And she said, I know who you need. And so she hooked you and I up. And as they say, the rest is history.
It is true. And it has been so much fun ever since.
Wandering around with the lights off, baby. Guided by the wind down an empty road. Dig deep for the feelings you buried so long ago. Place them on a dartboard. Here's where the daggers throw.
I was so thrilled when you shared this song with me for the first time. It really sort of like, I would say, sunk into my heart and like got its hooks in there. There's something so magical and vulnerable and powerful and like an incantation about it that just resonated with me on so many levels. So I would love to ask you, what was the nugget that inspired this like tapestry of a magical song? It takes us on such a small journey, big journey in a small amount of time.
So as I told Maria in the first episode, this is actually the first song I ever wrote, like ever.
What?
Yeah.
No.
So, yes.
How many past lives do you have, Molly Gazay? Like you're just pouring forth magic, no problem.
There's just so many. But the reason why I wrote it was because I had recently at the time found out that my family were Irish travelers and that we had family in the circus. So the song really kind of, I not only identified like my past and like my family's history, but also the way that I kind of grew up. I grew up nomadic. We grew up moving around a lot. We were in cars, sleeping in cars, sleeping in small apartments, big houses because we had 6 kids. But we never really stayed in one place for very long. And I really haven't ever. I think New York and San Francisco are the longest I've ever lived anywhere. There's a bit of a bittersweetness, I think, as I've grown up, seeing how some people grew up with like a stable home and they know where home is and they have this. And then I had the ability to kind of move around a lot and see different things and experience different people. And just like not to the extent that my ancestors did, but, similarly. And I think that there's like a bit of a bittersweetness to that. It's like, yeah, it's amazing that I got to experience so much of this life, but I also kind of am pining for that home aspect. Mm-hmm. And then when you find your people, then it becomes like, oh, is that the home? Is that where I belong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there seemed to be a bit of a love story, especially in the peak of the song. It had a very sort of orgiastic, sort of like transcendent quality, like you've moved out of the musing of the beginning into this sort of heightened place of really being fully exposed. That to me suggested a little bit of a soul connection, if not a romantic one. Were you in that space when you were writing that piece, or how was it shaped with what was going on in your life at the time?
It really is a soul connection. I think that throughout my life, I have met so many people who have been family and are not blood related. I would consider you family.
I would as well.
Lead into that one. My best friend, Christine, who you share a birthday with, is definitely a soul family. My friend Raymond is a soul family. My friend Annie. So I think that there's a bit of like a soul connection with the people that you meet along the journey. And then there's that kind of like transient, like, I hate to put too much of like a fine point on it, but like that spiritual, like soul connection towards the end where it's like, it could be a lover, it could be a friend, it could be a partner in crime, it could be someone who's just passing by, but they make a mark on your soul. And that's the magic of people and our connections to people.
Yeah, it's really resonating with something I've been thinking a lot about, because I grew up in a very solid traditional household on a military base and in the suburbs later, these really traditional structures. And as I have become the transient one, living the artist, coaching lifestyle of going where the work is, as we all do, I've really wondered what permanence looks like. What is home if it can be taken or packed up or changed, or all of these things that happen to a physical location. Mm-hmm. And at the end of your song, there's this longing that's hopeful, but also complex, right? It's going in a couple directions at once. And for me, it really tapped into that sense that even when you're there, you're not fully there. And even when you're connected, there's always a part of you that's in another time, in another moment. And that no matter how solid or how flexible your embodied sense of home is, you're always in this complex relationship to belonging, which to me is what home is. And so I was curious, as you head into the end, you talked about really wanting to take the listener on a journey. And I very much feel that you do. That the sense of home has changed for the lead character in the song. And where do you think the character ends up as opposed to where they begin?
Oh, that's great. I think that, wandering around with the lights off is like, kind of says it all. It's this like idea of walking in a trance almost, or being not quite certain of where you're at, where you're going, who you're supposed to be. And I think that as the song, because the song started and I wrote it so many years ago, and now is being finished now, and that ending is literally a new beginning for a new discovery. And so I do think that the character goes from not knowing where they belong, not knowing who they are, to finding their place, but not in this world.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like that just is so resonant in my heart, because in the beginning, there's an aimlessness, a wandering, a pondering, even like some really Kate Bush kind of quality to it.
I love that.
Yeah, like you do. And then in the end, the connection has been made and you feel it, but it's not complete. It's not a happy ending, but it doesn't mean that you're not in the relaxation of real connection.
Yeah.
And maybe there's growth in that as well, which is it's like sometimes in a younger, less experienced version, we think that belonging in home and love is complete unto itself. And then we go on the journey of it. And even when it's solid and stable and present, there's always longing. There's always what's next. There's always dreaming. There's always worrying about things that have happened in the past that are unresolved. And that's more of an embodied sense of home and belonging, I think.
Oh, totally. And like, as you were talking about that, I also realized part of the middle part of the song, it's like, take my hand and jump with me, darling. It's like that idea of like going on that journey with somebody and wanting to go on that journey with somebody. And also not specifically just anybody, but people who understand what it feels like to not have that sense of stability. It's like you find your people along the way, you know?
And they take the leap with you. So much of what I've been thinking recently is there really only is fear and love. We either are looking at the love or we're embracing the fear.
Yeah.
And when you find someone who says, we don't know what's going to happen, we have to go on the journey, but let's do it with love because of connection, then it becomes something else. And in that middle part of the song, it's almost like a Madonna ray of light quality, where it's like this whirling dervish of transcendence and like, but it's connected, but you're out of an intellectual grounded sense. And in that way, it does become spiritual. It's a shared spiritual connection because you are able to be physically present and transcendent in the same time. And that's what love lets us do.
That's true. That's very true. It's the beauty of love, right?
Yeah, it's so powerful. And, you know, they say you can't take it with you, but I think you take the love that you created in this world with you.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the real home, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the journey that we all have to go on, is to find that home.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. And thank you so much for all your questions. Did you have, if you were the best music person, like I don't know how to say this. If you were like the best cheerleading music critic and you were hearing this song, what would be your soundbite on Traveler's Lament to get people to listen to the song?
It's a really powerful question. I hope that they would be better at wording it than me, but I would say the next Kate Bush power anthem to take you from despair to connection in a modern world.
Ooh, I love it. I don't think that was bad at all. I think that was amazing. That's beautiful. I love that. And were there like any TV shows that you saw it in, or a music video? Did it look like something? Like, did you see a music video when you were listening to it?
Yeah, I definitely saw a music video. It's very visual for me. So I mean, because of like the beginning to me is so Kate Bush. So I see a lot of Stranger Things in it. It's a very spooky, misty kind of universe. I can see something that's like, I just did a public reading of the feminist novel Circe, which is fantastic. And I've been thinking a lot about what that movie would look like. I can see it in that movie, this, you know, all these fabulous novels on witches and feminist retellings of sorceresses over time. Like I feel like the central character is very magical and independent. So something that is in a kind of mythic, spooky landscape, or an urban environment in which we're tracing similar ideas. Because I think there is myth in the modern world. We just tend to get lost in the details and not rise above it in the way the song does. And in terms of music video, okay, now we're going to really show like my not cool music roots. But I
disagree.
100% saw Total Eclipse of the Heart music video because it's like my favorite thing ever, and I'm obsessed with it. And it embodies all the like Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, 80s hair wondrousness of being like a complicated, powerful siren of song. And I was like, yes, bring on the witchy black dress, bring on the giant hair, walk down a staircase with a bunch of weird guys doing weird things. Like, I want to see it.
I'm so down. I love it. It's like so funny because like I've never thought of it being like an 80s music video, but I'm a huge fan of 80s music, if you could not tell.
I mean, I did see the roots. I did hear the roots in the song, yes.
Just a little bit, yeah. So yeah, that like makes my nerd heart go boom, 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 boom. Love that. Well, thank you so much for listening to the song and for your review on the song. Do you have any last closing thoughts before we move on?
I am just really honored to have been asked to listen to it. And I think that it really has a heartbeat in this time. And I can't wait to see what you do next with it. I really think there's a lot of powerful, timely expression in the song. So please go and make your 80s fabulous music video of this song. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Amazing. Well, I am really excited to ask you some questions now about Money Monster and your Money Monster project. So for those people who don't know and who are not on your emailing list yet, what is Money Monster?
So money monsters are the monsters in your head that tell you you don't deserve the money you want. There isn't money in the field that you're doing. You're just going to waste the money anyway. It's these internalized beliefs and trauma around money and worth that convince us to make choices and take actions that are the opposite of what is in our long-term financial best interest. The image I always use is like when you're a kid and you're convinced there's a monster under the bed. And so you yell and yell so your parents will like come and rescue you from the monster, and they turn on the light and there's nothing there. But the minute the light is off, the monster is back and you're 100% going to die. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people have beliefs around money that are very similar. When we start to break them apart and look at them and turn the light on and discover together what's imagination and what's real, there's often nothing really there.
Yeah, it's a powerful story that you've created, and I'm really excited for filming and for it to come to life because, you know, when we had, you know, gotten together and you were telling me about this, I was like, this is so applicable to anyone in any field, but I think especially with creatives because we are so prone to the starving artist, like I have to work, you know, these certain types of jobs in order to be available for this. But then there's this vicious cycle of unworthiness.
It's right. And unfortunately, we're living through a time where art is seen as not as valuable as other forms of money making. It has historically always been treasured, and that starving artist mentality really comes out of the Romantic period of the late 19th century. It was a very small window of about 40 or 50 years where it was really cool to come from a lot of money and act like you didn't, you know, sort of like modern hipsters, I suppose.
Modern hipsters. Thanks. Thanks, Romantic period.
And so here were these basically aristocrats slumming it and finding nobility in it. And there's cultural reasons for it that I'm not going to geek out and tell you about now. But before then, there were craftspeople and there were tradespeople and there were guilds and there were all of these structures in place for people who created art and song and stories and all of that. And it was just this very influential late 19th century period that gave us the gift of the starving artist mentality. And we have clung on to that like a life raft.
Oh.
And the sad fact is that we are not in a digital age. We're in an information age, an idea economy. And who has ideas and information that nobody's seen or heard of before? Creatives.
Yeah.
So we have the superpower of this time, but we are so obsessed with holding on with these money monsters from the past that aren't even inherited from our grandparents or our grandparents' grandparents. They go back so far, and yet they guide our modern contemporary lives and keep us broke, scared, and afraid.
Yeah. And it's like I call it the actor's abuse, but I do think it's a creative abuse. It's like, and then it's perpetuated by society saying, well, you know, just because you're an artist doesn't mean that you're worthy of this and that and the next thing. Like, oh, I could do that. You know, like there's that whole like terrible mentality of people going, I could do that. I'm like, can you? Could you?
I mean, it is so much easier to be the person in the stands heckling and criticizing than to be the one in the arena, on the stage, putting yourself out there, offering the best of what you have, receiving the feedback that might be helpful, letting go of the feedback that isn't, and most importantly, making it look effortless.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone can do it. Does it affect people? Does it move them?
Mm-hmm.
Does it motivate them? Does it look like you can do it easily? If not, you're not really as good at it as you think you are.
It's true. It's true. And it's, you know, it's amazing that you have this money monster, a blog. My brain.
I do. I have a blog. I have a weekly newsletter that goes out, my writings on money monsters. I have a course, How to Slay Your Money Monsters, to help people work through them. It's really kind of an idea universe that I live inside of with my money monsters, because I just see them everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I really believe that it is the number one thing holding creatives of all stripes back, all innovators, all thinkers, all healers, for that matter, back, is this sense of unworthiness and powerlessness when your brilliant, talented brain is the most valuable thing that you own. And if you are holding back your genius because of fear around money, you are doing the world a disservice.
Absolutely. I mean, just doing, when you and I started writing based off of your ideas, I was like, oh my God, I identify with Pete Perfection sometimes. I definitely am Lola Lancelot sometimes, and I won't say all the other names because it's a surprise, but
that's right.
Like,
stay tuned.
Stay tuned, guys. But like, really, like, I think seeing it the way that it has been written, and I'm sure with the blog, you know, I've read your blog and I've read your newsletter, and I think that with the visual too, especially with artists, it's going to be even more impactful, because like, just like art is, it's a reflection of oneself or society or a certain group of people or a certain type of mentality. It's really, when you see the scripts, and then I think when you are going to see them in front of you, it's going to be more identifying, and you're going to be like, oh wow, like how crazy is it that I identify with this character sometimes and then this character, so I must be a cross between these two. Oh, okay, I see them dealing with this, so okay, that gives me the strength to be able to go, I do that. So okay, here's the next step. This is how I'm going to get myself to the next step, just like, you know, Pete Perfection did.
That's exactly right. And I love that it affected you so much right out of the gate. It's been such a blast building the Money Monster project with you, because it really has been a crystallization of so many years of my work, but also your work and the universal struggles that creatives go through. And one of the things I found is that none of the money or business stuff is really that hard. It's just not presented in ways that creative brains latch onto, because what do creative brains love? Story, song, poetry, puppetry. P.S. There's puppets in the Money Monster show. And in this way, we we are creating something where the audience can empathize and identify with the journey of the characters and see themselves in it, exactly as you're seeing. It's very difficult to see ourselves. I always say, like, our eyes are only in the front, right? We don't see ourselves from the back.
It's
also
so true.
Why you shouldn't cut your own hair, for the record.
Yeah. Learn that
you can't see back your friends. You can't see. And so seeing the patterns of behavior and the thoughts that lead to it and the beliefs that lead to the thoughts on someone else in this very playful, silly, but realistic landscape that we built in the Money Monster show, I think will really help creatives highlight things in themselves that maybe they weren't yet ready to face. And what a huge win that will be.
Absolutely. And what an amazing leadership position that you are in. And being a leader of leaders as you are presenting Money Monster and other things that you're doing, how can a performer be a leader in their field by using Money Monster?
I think that Money Monsters are the key thing to grapple with as you stand more fully in your shine. All of us are unique in our brilliance, in our genius, in our talent, and finding the best platforms, the best vehicles, and the best expression of that genius is the journey that we're on. Someone recently was talking to me about Taylor Swift. And it's like, well, she started in Nashville because that's where her parents were. And then she transitioned into this pop star that she now is, this like mega hit person.
Yeah.
And if she had gone to a different part of the country, her music might have started differently. But she always was chasing where she was fully realized. And this is our job as creatives, is to find the fullest expression of the most of ourselves that we can access. But our villain, our biggest nemesis in that pursuit, in that hero's journey, is our money monsters. Because our money monsters will tell us, well, it's not going to pay off, so I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm not going to fully invest my heart and my time and my energy, and in some cases, our money, in the thing that I say that I want. I am going to hide from the work I need to do. I am going to put on a persona instead of meeting the right people as myself so they can connect to my unique genius. And in this way, the money monsters block the ease of our natural path. There is an audience or a buyer out there for every creative talent. But if you are busy hiding, minimizing, diminishing, or changing the expression of your talent because you don't think it's worthwhile, worthy, or valuable, then they can't give you the money and the appreciation that you deserve for your raw ability.
And that is the mic drop. Thank you so much for being here. No, but like, I mean, like how fucking amazing, right? Like how many times do you get to hear that you are worthy, and from a stranger who just knows that you're creative, therefore you are worthy, you know, like that is so powerful. And I feel like that's it. Like, I feel like that is the whole point of this podcast right there.
I think it's deep. Yeah,
it is deep, and it's important, you know, like so important. So I would love to talk about any plugs for social media. How can people get on your mailing list and get Rhianna words of wisdom every day?
It would be my pleasure. The best place to follow me on social media is Instagram, and that's How to Make Money Your Friend. Because we have a cash positive environment in my universe of things. And so that is my handle, How to Make Money Your Friend. And to get on my email list, please go to my website, selftrustfund.com. It's self-trust because at the bottom, trust is what we're building so that eventually you can fund your own trust fund. So selftrustfund.com to get on my email list.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay. And then as a tradition that we are starting on this podcast, last thoughts for someone struggling in the music industry or in the creative field right now. Could you please give us a lyric from a song from one of your favorite songs with no explanation or very little explanation, and the artist.
This is how it works. You're young until you're not. You love until you don't. You try until you can't. You cry until you laugh. You laugh until you cry. And everyone must breathe until their dying breath. No, this is how it works. You peer inside yourself. You take the things you like and try to love the things you took. And then you take that love you made and you stick it into someone else's heart, pumping someone else's blood. And walking arm and arm, you hope it don't get harmed. But even if it does, you just do it all again.
I love that. And who's that from?
That's Regina Spektor.
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for being on A Living Album, Rhianna.
It was my pleasure, Molly. Thank you so much.
Wandering around with the lights off, baby.